Bran Tershak. Okay, so normally having one mulligan isn't good. However, Bran doesn't actually just have one mulligan. He actually has 4. And 3 of his mulligans are much better than a normal mulligan. Discarding a card is generally better than putting it back into your deck. Especially since you get to spread them out over multiple rounds. So rather than like being incentivized to save all of your mulligans for round 3, because that's when you get the most value out of them, because you're not putting anything back into your deck, Bran goes through his deck much earlier and sees his good cards a little bit earlier than most other leaders do. Bran is a horrible leader. He auto-loses to Mill. He does auto-lose to Mill. However, I don't believe the conclusion follows that argument. Now, I like Bran a lot. I've played quite a few Bran decks. The only issue is that when you have 4 mulligans, and you're able to save all of those mulligans, you might as well just play the leader that has a better order ability, since you're effectively thinning to 0 anyway. I liked... So, Bran really wants you to be playing like exactly 16 good cards. Because the way Bran works, you can effectively make it so that you never really have to play any of your cheaper cards. You get to discard 3 cards with Bran, 2 cards with Scalds, 2 cards with Burna, and then you thin with like either Witchers or Daran for the rest of them. So it's trying to set up the game so that every card that you play ends up being one of your high provision or higher provision cards, and you just discard all your cheap 4s. This allows you to play like higher impact 4s that are a little situational, like Dimeridium Bomb or On-Crate Marauder, which in a lot of situations aren't cards you want to play, but since you're discarding it most of the time anyway, you can just easily afford to. I think that's the really interesting part about Bran. Unfortunately, the best Skellege deck right now doesn't really mind playing its cheaper cards. And a lot of the better cards, like at the middling value range, in like Wild Boar and Wolfsbane. So you're not really trying to dig through your deck like that. You're okay playing your second Savage Bear. You're okay playing your Pirate Captains, your Mastercrafted Spears, your Longships. There's not as much of incentive to just play high provision cards, especially when you're able to thin through your deck so easily anyway. You effectively see your entire deck in round 3 with all 4 mulligans. You're going to play Witchers, you're going to play Roach. You're going to have 6 cards in your deck going into round 3, and you're going to see 4 of those remaining cards. So there's going to be 2 cards in your deck that you're not going to see. And when you get the ability to both line up your Wolfsbane and line up your Wild Boar, it's kind of hard to play Bran over Croc when that's the best thing going on in the faction. But yeah, that's basically Croc versus Bran. They're sort of similar, but Croc just fills his role a little bit better than Bran does right now. His enabling, like lining things up right now is so big. Harold the Cripple. Split 8 damage randomly between all enemies. My thoughts on Hydra, though? I don't know what you mean. So people tried to play this with like a bunch of great swords and dagger. I think in the end, the best lists with Harold were just playing dagger and just playing a bunch of good stuff cards outside of it, rather than trying to rely on like keeping great swords alive and all that stuff, and just trying to secure last play dagger Harold and have that be your finisher. Because really, you only want to you can only use Harold once. And it's just not as good with greatswords as it is with dagger. Unfortunately, you only have 2 mulligans, so you can't dig through your deck as well as the other leaders. And this really just isn't... It isn't that crazy. Like what, you're playing 20 points as a finisher? Like, it's good, but it's beatable. It's also very bleedable, is the issue. Like, it's hard to win round 1. And if you lose round 1, you can be forced to play your Harold in round 2, and then your deck is just kind of silly. Iced. Play a warrior from your graveyard. I don't know. People were trying to play this like early on in the patch. I don't think it was ever good. I know Adzikov over the first couple days of Homecoming was playing an ice deck for a while, and then because he was playing it, a bunch of other people were playing it. I don't think we ever lost to it. We played against it like 5 or 6 times, and it quickly fell out of favor. Like within the first week, there was no more Iced on ladder. It just wasn't very good. It didn't do anything well. The idea is you're like, what, setting up Yoda Beckers. Skellege sucks, it auto loses to lemon. None of the good Skellege decks even care about lemons. And all the bad Skellege decks would still be bad if lemons didn't exist. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not that relevant. Miracle Core loses to lemons. Oh, you got me. I was including that in the bad Skellege decks. Sigif is right. Summon a warrior can get rid of the allied res. So this actually works differently than Iced does. Because Iced plays, when Iced plays Yuta from the graveyard, it comes back as a 6. But when you Sigdrifas the Yuta, the deploy ability doesn't trigger, so it comes back as a 12. So you get to get like 12 for 10 when you res Yoda with Sigdrifas right. It's one of the few times that like summoning is an upside over playing. Sigurdrifa, right? Yeah, there's an R there. Can rest Hjalmar with Iced. Which one's that? Oh, yeah, this is a thing you could do. If you had like a bunch of bigger units in your graveyard, you could value it over playing Hjalmar a couple times. It seemed like most of the time I played against Iced, they were just trying to set up Yuta Beckers. But yeah, that makes sense. I didn't realize it was a warrior. So you can banish like a veteran, and then your Iced becomes worth 11 as long as you have a target. That's not bad. You got 3 mulligans. You can only be so bad when you have 3 mulligans. Gwen, I'm pretty sure the deck builder is all client side. I don't think there's anything that connects to the network until I try to like load a deck. Olaf. Order. Boost Olaf by twice the amount he is damaged. So the main use for Olaf is people are playing it with Heim and Croc. They'll go Olaf one turn, next turn they'll use their Croc to ping it, and they will play Heim to swap its power with the Olaf, so you get a 7-point Heim. And your Olaf goes to 1, you click Olaf, Olaf becomes 15. So you get, what, 15 plus 7? You get 22 points for 18. So you cheat by like 4 provisions. And it cheats in a way that puts a lot of points on your side of the board, which is something that's kind of difficult to do right now. It seems a lot of the ways to efficiently make points come from damaging the opponent's board, whether that be like Wild Boar, whether that be... What the fuck, dude? Come on. Whether that be Wild Boar, whether that be Wolfsbane, whether that be Scorch. Just temp ban him? Oh, I guess I can just give him the 24. Oh, so he's already banned. I don't know how to undo a permanent ban. Rip. Yeah, it puts points on the side of the board rather than removing the opponent's board. Which isn't a common thing among efficient players in Gwent right now. Thanks, Sang. Wild Boar of the Sea. Yeah, so the Croc deck. Boar is just so overstated. I don't know. I mean, the card is definitely good. But I don't think it's the card that makes the Croc deck good. Like, there are definitely ways, and certainly there's decks that can very easily play around Wild Boar of the Sea. Whether that be, like, consolidating your points onto just a few units, or being able to boost your units out of being damaged. It seems broken with Wolfsbane. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the thing. Like, a lot of the reason this card is so good is because Wolfsbane is so good, and Wolfsbane lines it up for you. But yeah, like, if you bait out Wolfsbane in round 1, your opponent's gonna have a lot of, like, 11-point Wild Boar of the Seas, which are definitely good. But, like, their entire deck is built around making this card good. They should be getting some kind of good value on their 10 provision card. It's still efficient. Yeah, but I don't think that's really a problem. It's also, like, strictly a long round card. In a shorter round, this card's trash. Like, if you're in a position where you can bleed Croc and get them into, like, a 3 or 4 card round 3, and they're stuck with Wild Boar, this card just doesn't do anything. They'll play it for, like, what, maybe 7? Oftentimes, it's just a 5. Depending on what your cards are. There's, like, 1 unit and boosts a lot. Well, or, like, consume stuff. Like, your opponent damages a bunch of stuff, you can play, like, the Consume Crone, eat 2 of your damaged units. There's a few ways to do it. That Wolfsbane can play Tremors? Yeah, but Tremors is way worse. Like, if you're playing Tremors instead of Wild Boar, I think that's fine. Just needs 2 damage units to be half decent. It really wants... Yeah, sure. To be half decent, sure. To be good, it wants, like, 4. My body's pretty high and it's not an engine. It's not an engine in that you can't remove it. But it's sort of like an indirect engine in a way. Like, sort of in the same way that I'd call Lacerate almost an engine. Like, it scales with round length. And sort of like an engine, you're able to interact with this ability over time. As your opponent damages stuff, you can boost or consume your units that are damaged to make this card worse. Oh. Did I actually get DC'd? Oh, I did. Rip. Okay. Well, this has no Summoning Sickness? Well, the entire round you're building it up. Your opponent knows that it's in your deck. They're going to play around it. Okay, let's see if I can find Skellege cards in Gwenti. Okay, cards. Then search and filter through cards by faction, strength, and others. So if I search Skellege, if I search SK, if I search faction, SK, actually worked. I didn't think that was gonna work. Okay, so this is in a different order too. Just use Gwent up. Gwenty sucks. Oh, I guess I have to like click on each card individually to read the text. Yeah, is Gwent up better for that? Yeah, here we go. I can mouse over stuff. Let's see. Okay, so if I want Skellege cards, I got Skellege cards. I don't have Skellege cards. I have all cards. Can I filter out? Oh, here we go. Cool, and these are in the same order. Nice. Oh, and we have chat in the window now. But yeah, Wild Boar. I think this card's honestly fine. The condition on this is tougher than most people think when Wolfsbane isn't as prevalent. Babjorn. Deploy, melee, destroy a damaged enemy. So I guess sometimes you're gonna live the dream and kill an old spear tip. But what, like 95% of the time, your best target in the matchup is gonna be a damaged Frenzied Dow. Imagine what an NR boar would look like. It would have order. It would only deal 1 damage. And it would be 9 provisions. And it wouldn't require them to be damaged. Don't forget Rolock. It's not Rolocked. No, it's definitely not Rolocked. So basically, literally a Noctis. Yes, that's the joke. But yeah, it seems like your generally best target's going to be Frenzied Dow, and after Frenzied Dow, I don't know, there's got to be better things to play than this. I guess if you like tag a Ciri, you're pretty happy. You go like Croc Hero Power, hit Ciri, damage it with Babjorn. But so much of the time you're going to see a Ciri, it's going to be buffed by Morvran. It's going to be difficult to even get it in range of Babjorn in the first place. Camby. Deploy. Discard the rightmost card in your hand, force your opponent to do the same. In the first couple weeks of Homecoming, I was having a real good time playing Cambys in Branfroth. I would intentionally lose round 1, like pretty early, and my opponent would pass on 7 cards, and I would play Camby. Or, my opponent would play to 7 cards, and I would play Camby, put them to 6 and me to 7, so they couldn't dry pass anymore. So they either had to play round 2 out long, and I would almost always get card advantage, because my deck was just better at that point in the round. Or they would pass, and into round 3 I would have card advantage. It just like set up a really nice win-win situation. Outside of that brand deck, I never really wanted to be bled. So I found myself cutting Camby from every other Skellege list that I played after the hotfix. But if there's ever a Skellege deck that doesn't mind getting bled and can like keep up the tempo in round 2, Camby's a threat you gotta worry about. It's a really cheesy way to get card advantage. And aside from that, you can like save it for the end of round 3, where your opponent has like 1 card left and it's sort of like a pseudo pit trap. Meh. The card advantage use for it is way better than the discarding the last card use for it. Ceres on Crate. This unit is in your graveyard. Summon it to a random allied row whenever you play a unit from the graveyard. So whenever you play Sigdrifa's Right, or... Wait, does this trigger off Sigdrifa's Right? This summons. I don't actually know if this triggers off Sig's Right. I know it triggers off Freya. I know it doesn't trigger off Morkvarg or Skirmisher. It doesn't trigger off Sig's Right? Wow. Does this only work with Freya? card. That's a lot of provisions, too. Oh, iced? Sure, sure. Freya and iced. Big question is, if you burn the Ceres and the Mork, do they get both back? No, Ceres doesn't trigger on Mork. Yeah, like, I don't want to play Freya in most decks, because that card isn't very efficient. Like, I'm spending 7 provisions to res a bronze that is probably worth less than 7 provisions. And now I'm putting, like, a 4 for 10 in my deck that requires me to play inefficient cards for me to get value out of it. And until I res this twice, I'm not getting good rate. It's like, I have to play it in round 1, res it in round 2 and round 3, just to get 12 for 10. And obviously you can do stuff like send it with Daran to try to, like, kind of cheat on value there. But even then, I don't know, like, sending 4s with Daran is still pretty good. And you're giving that up just to send Ceres. Oh, yeah, I can make it a little bit bigger. How's that? I wish I could get rid of this whole side thing. Let's see. That didn't really work. Oh my god. Wait, it did work. It did work. Wait, if I close this, will it work? Okay, there we go. Cool. Look at that. On the fly. Zoom in slightly more. I have to edit CSS. I didn't. I did exactly what I wanted to do. Closer, please. Oh, no, at that point it's not looking as good. Defacing. It's just client side. Let's see, where were we? We just did Ceres, so now Dagger. Trying to make the font bigger. No, I just wanted to get rid of that sidebar. Whenever an enemy takes damage, boost self by 1. So generally you're only playing this with, like, Harold. You're trying to set up last play where you go Dagger into Harold, you get 20 points. If you're trying to split this up to, like, play it early, it gets scorched. Or it dies, like, professional or something. It was kind of one of the problems with, like, the all-in Greatsword deck, is you had to split yourself between Dagger and Greatsword effects and cards that made Greatsword good. So in the end, it ended up being better to just... like, if you're trying to do this Harold Dagger thing, it was better to just do something else and then have this Harold Dagger finisher. And even then, like, it just wasn't... It just wasn't worth doing when you can just play Croc or Bran. At least that was how I felt. But yeah, it seemed like Harold fell out of favor pretty severely, like, as the patch went on. Over the first, like, week or two, Harold was probably the most popular SK leader. But then, like, Croc overtook him. I think even maybe, like, Bran overtook Harold as he went forward. Just word final. Yeah. It's also got the problem of, like, being bled out, right? Like, your opponent knows that you're trying to do this, and they're not... Like, if they're going to lose to it last play, they're going to try to do everything they can to not let you do it last play. Beta was only Scorch your Gigny and sufficient to make Axeman bad. Axeman was a very different deck in Old Gwent. Axeman is more of a weather deck than it was an Axeman deck. We didn't really care too much if the Axeman died. Mattered way more if just, like, weather got cleared. Ermion, pretty much the exact same opinion of Ermion as I do every other of these tutors. They feel overcosted by like 1 or 2 points. I never really wanted to play them. I don't think I've put one of these in my deck since the PTR, where I was playing Kira in my Hensel deck. Even when Froth was, like, nutty, there were just better things to do than play Ermion. Well, like, you're a Skellege deck, you can thin to 0. You don't need tutors like this. You don't see how Ermion is 10 and Gremlins is 6? Yeah, it's... thinning, I guess. You remember his bags? You remember it winning because of 46 value bronzes? No, it was winning because of like 60 value golds. And restore. I mean, it depended on the matchup for sure, but in general, most of the time you're winning because of weather. Whenever this unit takes damage, damage a random enemy unit by 2. Yeah. I think I saw this played like once. There's no good way to damage this, right? Like you have to just like use your croc shot. There's no like late long ship effect anymore where you like damage one of your units to get points. You have to damage this like 4 times to get 9 value. Why is this a 9? Harold? Oh, yeah, okay, Harold, there we go. You're not really getting points elsewhere, though. You just, like, turn your blue boy into a 1-point random damage. I guess if you're comboing it with, like, Flaminica, or something similar, the other one that heals. That's still so many provisions for that ability. Madman Lugos. Damage an enemy by twice the number of damaged enemies. So if there's 2 damaged enemies, you're dealing 4, which gets you like Mullane value. Demon Smuggler? Wait, what's Demon Smuggler? Is that not the card that mills you one? Damage a unit. Oh, I didn't even know this was a card. This is something totally different in PTR, right? The problem is it's still not like an engine, right? You get to do this once. Oh my god, this is not fun to scroll through. There's like 2 different scrolls. There's like one over here and then one over here. One of them I want to scroll, one of them I don't. But if my mouse is over here, it like mouses over everything. There goes Super OP. No, because if you have Bloodthirst 2, there's a 4 provision card that deals 4. This is just like even more situational. Because it costs so many more provisions. There's just better stuff to do than play Madman Logos. It's Gwentup. This is Gwentup. Gwentup.com/deckbuilder. It looks a little different because we hacker manned it. Order. Discard a card, then draw a card. Charge 3. Whenever a special card is discarded, damage an enemy by 2. Miracle Brand's a really funny deck. Just include a Geralt version or Cleaver instead of Madman. Yeah, like if you want this kind of effect, just play Cleaver. Or even just like Unicorn Kyranix, right? There's just better stuff to do for how situational this is. Coral is a great card. Yeah, I agree. I like the design of Coral. I think this card's a lot of fun. It allows you to build really kind of unique decks. And while the decks aren't great, I'm glad they're in the game. It's a lot of fun trying to like refine Miracle Brand, see how many specials you can get away with not having to play. Like, we started with a list that had 6 specials, and by the time we kind of finished playing Miracle, we had like 3 specials in our deck, and it was still running just fine. This card feels like the only archetype with enough support. I don't know if I'd really even call discard an archetype. They're just kind of good stuff cards. There's not really a payoff for being discard. Self-harm has a ton of support in SK. Does it? I always felt like the opposite when I looked, though maybe I just didn't look hard enough. Herald Houndsnout. Spawn 3 of Herald's Pal, summon the other allied row, damage enemy by 1, cooldown 1. Okay, so when the Herald lives and you get to kill all the skulls, you're getting 9. However, that's not really what makes Herald good. Like, sometimes you're gonna get all that value, but a lot of the time it's just that, like, when you play Herald, your opponent all of a sudden doesn't really want to play their Forktails anymore. Their Wolfsbanes on odd are a lot more awkward. The distribution of the 7 points that Herald gives you are just so good. Plus, really like a Froth deck, obviously. You're gonna want something like Herald to spawn a bunch of things on the one row. I like Herald a lot. It's a cool card. It does sort of a different thing than a lot of other cards. Like, it goes wide, but you're not punished for going wide. Because the stuff that punishes you for going wide would end up destroying the skulls. And then you get value that way. Yeah. Hjalmar on Crate. Deploy, melee, banish a unit in your graveyard, and just damage an enemy by its power. I played this in my Brand Froth deck for a while. So, on like the first couple days of the patch, I was playing Unicorn Kyranix. But I found myself wanting cards that I didn't mind just like playing in round 1 when I didn't have both halves a little bit more often than I wanted Unicorn Kyranix. And Hjalmar was just good in round 1. I could discard a Tershak Veteran and always be able to deal 8 damage with my Hjalmar. So I ended up with like Hjalmar Cleaver because I just wanted more control options, and Unicorn was not really a relevant control option in that metagame. But yeah, it's sort of like if your deck is built to play Hjalmar is basically always a Kyranix that has a Unicorn in your hand. But you need to be building your deck that has enough discards in round 1, or discards by round 3, that you have either Yuta or a Tershak Veteran in your graveyard already. You can't really look at this as a 9 provision card, because you have to play a 5 instead of a 4. Like, you're playing a Tershak Veteran that you intend to discard rather than just like a 4 that you intend to discard. It's more like a 10 provision card than a 9 provision card. But yeah, as someone said earlier, you can res this with Iced too. Didn't actually realize that. And he's probably one of the higher value cards you can res. If you have like a good target for like when you banish Yuta, you get 15 on your Iced. You have a good target with like a Veteran, you get 11 on your Iced. You made the lore command? I made the lore command. I had a lot of fun with it. It was inspired by something Sang did. Whenever you play a ship, Boost it by 1. Whenever you play a pirate, damage a random enemy by 1. So on the bright side, it has 6 power, so it doesn't die super easy. Can you add more? Yeah, put them in my Discord in the suggestions channel. And I'll see if I can get them in template. Yeah, so it's... I don't know, every time my opponent played a Holger, I tend to just kill it, because nothing else was generally requiring removal in the matchup. But then again, I think only like 1 or 2 opponents actually played Holger against me. How many pirates even are there? Oh, Lippy's a pirate. Wow. Yeah, so you got Pirate Captain. You got Warmonger, you got Lippy. And then what are ships? You got Longship, Warship, and Wild Boar of the Sea. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't seem like there's enough support here. If there were more ships and more playable pirates, I could see this being a real card. It's a 6 for 8 engine. It's just kind of held back by its archetype not having that much support. He's the only non-order 6 strength engine in the game besides Catullus. Is he? I mean, I guess it might be. Interesting. Svenrige. Deploy Bloodthirst 3, boost self by 5. So if you can get Bloodthirst 3, you get to play an 11 for 8. That's pretty exciting. It really just depends whether you think you can get Bloodthirst 3. I think probably a little under half the time this was played against me, it was just played as a 6. But I was also playing a lot of Consume on ladder, and Consume is very good at shutting off Bloodthirst. What? Oh, no, he's probably worse than Skellege. Especially right now. Because he makes you play either a pirate or a ship every turn to get 1 point. Where Skellege just always gets 1 point. Skellege costs 2 more. This is supposedly better than Skellege. Yeah, if you can get to the point where you can build a deck that is just like all ships and all pirates, this guy's probably better than Skellege. The one thing Skellege does a little better is that Skellege is harder to kill, because he grows himself. It's a lot more work to kill Skellege over 2 turns, because A, he comes down as a 7 instead of a 6. And after 2 turns, you'll have to deal 8. Whereas here, you just always have to deal 6. 3 plus 3 is certainly easier than 4 plus 4. Or 3 plus 5. But yeah, in terms of raw value, if you're able to just play a ship or a boat every single turn, you could be good. Just not right now. Burnabran. Draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. This card's very, 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 very good. So it's a 5 for 8. But if you assume that the average card in your deck is worth something like 7-ish points, and you have junk to discard, like Morkvarg or Skirmishers or like your extra Savage Bear, every card you're like cycling with Burna ends up being worth like around 3 points, often more. Burna's like honestly better than like an 11 for 8 in a lot of situations. Burna's crazy. We're gonna kind of like hold Skellege together. I think I'd say Burn is the best Skellege card. I don't think it's very close either. Like, what's even competing with it? It's like a, yeah. Card is solid 10 out of 10. Morkvarg, discard synergy. In some matchups, you just play it and you're happy to just play it. Against like artifact decks, it's 5 points that they have difficulty dealing with. Not too much to say other than that. Lippy has the highest potential in Skellege. I don't know about that. I still feel like Lippy's more of a meme than a real card. We'll get to that later. Burn is good because overpriced shooters and no cycling. Well, not really. It's just that cycling is valuable. And Burna does it very efficiently. Mork's good against Pit Trap. Yeah, if you're looking at Pit Trap, you can just like jam Morkvarg, get your Morkvarg back. Grimmist is competing with Burna. Grimmist... Yeah, okay, Grimmist is nuts. Grimmist is nuts. I forgot about that one. It's been a while since I've seen Grimmist be good. Donar on Hindar. Damage an enemy by 2. Bloodthirst 2, damage an enemy by 5 instead. So it's either a 6 for 8 or a 9 for 8. Man, the difference between 2 and 5 is crazy. Like, 2 doesn't really kill anything, 5 kills almost everything. Cycling is so valuable because of overpriced tutor and no cycling? No, cycling is so valuable because you play 4s in your deck that aren't worth very much, and discarding those has a lot of value. You still only get to play so many provisions, so every time you get to discard one of your cheaper cards and turn it into a card from your deck, that generates value. It has nothing to do with how many tutors there are. If the value in Burna was finding specific cards, then yes. But it's not even finding specific cards that makes Burna good, it's upgrading the quality of cards in your hand. Now, it does both, but both are important. And I would argue that like upgrading the value is more important. Daran. Deploy, ranged, move 3 cards from your deck to your graveyard. When you find Daran in round 1, Daran's crazy. Yeah, even if you're just like using Daran to send 2 random 4 provision cards and a Morkvarg, the thinning value from that is so nice. The biggest problem with Daran is that, at least in Bran, if you're playing Witchers, Burna, Scalds, you can't really fit Daran either because you're thinning too much. But if you're not Bran and you're playing Croc, and you want to thin to 0, Daran, Witchers, Burna, Scald, and, wait, Burna's 2, Witchers is 2, Scald, Daran's 3, and I guess Roach gets you to 9, and that thins you to 0. Daran sucks on blue? No, because you're sending Morkvarg. It's a 9 point play. Daran's great. It's just when you don't draw Daran in round 1, and your deck is built around getting this thinning out, you kind of just fall apart. Unfortunately. Scowl. Deploy, damage an undamaged enemy by 4. If it didn't have to be undamaged, this card would be a lot better. I don't know, that condition just feels kind of bad. Like, if you look at this purely at rate, it's 7 for 8 on a card that deals 4. This is basically a Vess. But the condition... the condition... Yeah... I don't want to say that it's terrible, but it's not great. It's certainly not as good as the other faction's version of this card. Like, it's worse than Mullane, it's worse than Vess. I don't know if Nilfgaard has one of these, or if Monsters has one of these. It's also just, like, worse than Unicorn Kieranix. And our card is better. Yeah! Apparently. And our card's, like, strictly better, right? It does upside and doesn't have a condition on the damage. Same provision, same points. Lippy. A lot of players whose opinions I respect think very highly of this card. I really don't think very highly of this card. There's so many ways to, like, trick yourself into thinking that this card is getting more value than it is. And, like, yeah, it lets you replay Witchers. It lets you replay your expensive cards as long as you drew your expensive cards in round 1. But the card, like, sets up a bunch of these little weird paradoxes where, like, you want to use your mulligans in round 1 so that you're only playing good cards in round 1. But if you use your mulligans in round 1, then you're not able to dig through your deck in rounds 2 and 3 to, like, find the cards that you put back. Like, when the Lippy deck high rolls, the Lippy deck is very, very good. But it feels like, on average, Lippy's really not that much better than just playing a regular... Like, if we're comparing just, like, a regular Boar Croc deck to the Lippy Boar Croc deck, I feel like even when the Boar deck high rolls, it's not even that much better. Lippy's fun. Lippy is definitely fun. Miracle SK is one of the most fun decks that I played the entire patch. But in terms of, like, competitive decks, like, even before the Froth nerf, I felt like Bran Froth was just a better deck than Lippy Froth. And I played that matchup quite a few times, if you want to, like, say... If you want to, like, judge it by mirrors. Like, I felt favored against the Lippy deck just as, like, straight Bran. I was never super impressed by Lippy when I played against it. When I played with it, it was generally unexciting. Every time I watched Shinmiri play with it, it looked just, like, kind of whatever. I think people get way more excited about the prospect of cheating on provisions by shuffling your graveyard back into your deck than it's actually worth. Top 1 pro ladder used Lippy with Wilsbane and Boar. I don't know. I don't think so. I think he just played regular Croc. I can check. I'm pretty sure Saber played the Lippy version. Let's see. Nah, he was just playing this. As typical as it gets. He was playing Spears. Just getting back into Gwent after being away for months. Really enjoying Homecoming. Just curious, why is everyone on Reddit and stuff saying the game is dead? Or trouble finding a match at all? A lot of it's because Twitch viewership is down and they see those numbers. Queue times at like the middle or top of the ladder are pretty slow. But yeah, in general, just don't read Reddit. Reddit tends to exaggerate everything. Heim, we kind of talked about Heim with Olaf. I don't think you're ever playing Heim if you're not playing it with the Olaf combo. Sometimes you get to steal an old Spear Tip's power, but you're not playing this card on that dream. Same reason you're not putting Regis Higher Vampire in random decks in hopes that you get to steal a Ghoul's power. You're always going to have the backup plan of the Olaf. Only one player in Gwent. Yeah, I mean, if we look at the Gwent Twitch page right now, you could make the argument that Gwent is dead. In fact, if you try to load up Gwent right now, it's very easy to make the argument that Gwent is dead. However, Gwent will rise. Gwent's indeed dead. I mean, it depends what you mean by dead. Champion's Charge. Damage a unit by 5. Bloodthirst 3. Destroy a unit instead. So there's two parts to this. One, how bad is it to be playing a 7-provision Alzur's Thunder? And the answer to that is it's pretty terrible. Like, no one really plays Alzur's Thunder at 6 provisions. And the next part of this is how good is it when you have Bloodthirst 3 to destroy a unit instead. And honestly, it's pretty good. A lot of the Skellege decks kind of lack tall removal. Like, people are playing Geralt Professional, and granted, Geralt Professional is probably a better card than this. But it is, like, almost half as many provisions as Professional. But the condition's harder. Yeah, I don't know. If you're really tight on provisions, I could see maybe putting this in your deck. I've certainly played against people on ladder that were putting this in their croc deck, and I haven't got by it before. But whether it's going to be worth the provisions on average, I'm not really sure. It certainly demands a very specific deck, right? You need to be able to enable Bloodthirst 3 reliably. What I think about Karathi, I don't think that card is playable. I don't even think the Nilfgaard version of it's playable. Karathi would have to be like a 10 for me to want to consider playing a card like that. Maybe even a 9. Just play Thunder. Well, it's different than Thunder because of the upside, right? Like, you're not playing this to deal 5. You're playing this on the hopes that you're able to, like, destroy a Spear Tip or destroy a Ghoul eventually. Your opponent needs to play minions to enable Bloodthirst 3. Yes, this is dead against artifact decks. You got me. Delirium. Split 6 damage randomly between all units on an enemy row. If you want to be a greatsword guy, you can play Delirium. You're not playing this outside of greatswords, right? We can all agree on that. Good for immune enemies. I guess that's true. You can, like, kill an alpha werewolf. You can kill a Milva. As long as they're the only things on the row. Technically, you can get immune units damaged, I guess, so that you can turn on Bloodthirst, turn on Wild Boar. But realistically, we're not playing this outside of a greatsword deck. Right? We're not crazy. I think we're not crazy. Restore. Heal all units on a row for 7 provisions. That's expensive. I don't know, is there like some way to set this up? There isn't, right? You can lacerate yourself and then play Restore. I think that's the only way you're getting value. Yuta. Deploy. If Yuta is the highest unit, damage self by 6. So, while it says if Yuta is the highest, it actually says if Yuta is a highest. If it is tied at 12, it still damages self by 6. So the biggest unit has to be 13 for Yuta to not damage yourself. The main reasons people are playing this card are to either combo with the Sigdrifa's Right Res, which summons instead of plays, so you get 12 for 10 in the second half. Or you combo this with Becker's, which is an 8 provision card to get you 18 points for 15 provisions, which, neither of these are great. The problem with the Becker's combo is you're putting 2 cards into one card that gets like Scorched or Professional very easily. And the problem with the Sigdrifa's Right thing is you draw your cards in the wrong order and you have like a dead Sigdrifa's Right in round 1. It's just not really worth the risk for the very minor number of points that you're cheating. Yuta, deploy, feed your opponent's Azrael. Yes, it also does that. That is also a big problem with the Sigdrifa's Right combo. If you're playing Yuta and your opponent's the monsters deck, they have Azrael, and they don't mind eating your Yuta. Skellege. Bloodthirst 1. Lock an enemy unit. Yeah. It's better than Duragare. This is one of the faction locks that's actually better than Duragare. It's this one and the Scoia'tael one that I like more. As long as you can get Bloodthirst. I've certainly played Duragare in Skellege decks, because I thought Bloodthirst was a little bit too hard of a condition. But I think in general you're going to be pretty good with Skellege. Second best lock in the game? I honestly think it's tied with Duragare. I like Duragare a lot. I have a lot of respect for that card. But yeah, it's like the Scoia'tael one's up here, and then Duragare is like pretty solid, like a level or 2 below. Yuana. Heal an ally by 1, charge 1, gain 1 charge whenever an adjacent unit takes damage. So we have more heal synergy. We still haven't really seen any self-wound synergy. Like, we have a bunch of ways to make our guys not damaged. Or to, like, benefit from our guys being damaged. But no real ways to damage our guys. Like, Flaminica is another card that benefits from us getting value out of damaging our cards. But I don't think we've seen a single card that does the other half. Are we just hoping that our opponents damage our cards? Lorebot's accurate now? Lorebot's always been accurate. Spear Maiden Queensguard synergy I'm thinking of. No, I'm not. That's like saying Blue Lugus is the synergy that I'm thinking of. This isn't actually a way to damage our cards that gets points. It's just a reason to damage our cards. Like, so far, this is the only card that I've seen that gets points while damaging your stuff. You have to, like, assemble a 3-card combo with Shield Maiden, right? Like, you need Shield Maiden Spear, or, like, Shield Maiden use your Croc Shot, and then also have Yuana or Flaminica. What I want to see is just, like, the old Light Longship with Queensguard. To where I'm getting value on both halves. Like, I'm getting value out of damaging my cards, and then I'm getting value healing them back up. Preferably in not 3 cards. Deploy, damage an enemy by half its current power. Yeah, I've played my fair share of Wolfitons. In terms of just like random 7s, Ulfredin's pretty reliable at getting 7 provisions worth of value. Make Beta Greatsword great again. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not like you're developing carryover. I'm not saying it has to be a carryover mechanic, too. Guys, it wasn't the engines that made Greatsword ridiculous. It was the engines being engines that also created carryover that made Greatsword ridiculous. I'm asking for half of that. Because that's kind of what it takes for something like this to be playable. Deploy. Damage an enemy by half of its current power. Yeah, so if your opponent has a 5 in play, you're getting 7 for 7. If your opponent has a 7 in play, you're getting 8 for 7. If your opponent has an old spear tip in play, you're really happy. Asking for ridiculous carryover. I'm not asking for ridiculous carryover. I do think the game needs more carryover mechanics to make gameplay interesting. I'm not saying, like, the Greatsword deck is the way to do that. But I would like to see some carryover mechanics other than just, like, thinning. Saving mulligans. It's kind of weird. Udalric. Order damage a unit by 1. Charge 3. Lambert becomes meta-defining. No, I don't mean carryover like resilience. I mean carryover like good hand buff effects. Like strengthen. I don't know, man. The rounds just feel so isolated. I don't know why this is a card. We reviewed a similar card, didn't we? I feel like this is the second time I've seen this card. Was there one of these in NR too? I feel like this exact card was in NR. Giant Boar. Deploy melee, boost self by 1 for every damaged unit. I've had a few people play some big giant boars on me in their crocolists. I've also had some people play some very small wild boars against me in their crocolists. You need 4 damage units to break even. I don't know how easy it is to actually get more than 4 damage units, though. Brain is very similar to Ulrich. Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Oh, the Dryad one. Yeah. I don't know why. Why is that not clan tagged? Ulrich? He is? Spoilers, dude. Freya's Blessing. Play a bronze unit from your graveyard. Okay. I kind of talked about this when we were talking about Winch and NR. So the reason that reses were good before were kind of twofold. I guess threefold even. So when you played a Freya, you got an extra point on your bronze. All bronzes cost the same, so it's not like you were paying extra to get Freya. They were strengthened in the game, so you got like some amount of carryover as well when you played reses. And also you had the toolbox, right? You got to choose from multiple things to res between. In Homecoming, when we look at Freya's Blessing, there's no strengthen effects. Freya's more expensive than every other bronze. You don't get an extra point. And the toolbox doesn't really matter all that much because bronzes are generally kind of underwhelming. So it ends up being Freya's good in decks that are playing Bearmaster, because Bearmaster is like really undercosted in that archetype. And I guess like maybe Greatsword if you think you're getting good value on your Greatswords all the time. But, like, it doesn't do any of the things that the old reses were good about. Overcosted? Yeah, I mean, this costs the same as Necromancy. And Necromancy's neutral. Ceres? Sure, but Ceres isn't even good value when you play 2 Freyas. It isn't even great value when you play 2 Freyas. It becomes reasonable once you play 2 Freyas in 2 different rounds. Freya's Blessing's not good unless there's 8-point bronzes that are good. Honestly, because Freya's Blessing isn't a card in round 1 that you can really play, you want to get more than 8 for 7 on it. Like, reses are kind of... I don't want to say, like, they're balanced by how situational they are. But that's kind of what I mean. Like, one of the weaknesses of reses was how situational they were, which is why stuff like Freya, while really good, wasn't just, like, unbeatable or, like, too good. Because one thing that, like, having Freyas in your deck enabled you to lose round 1. It let your opponent play in a way to keep your reses dead so you didn't have enough cards to keep pushing the round. And when you take away all of the upsides that you get for playing a card like that, why would you ever play a card like that? Veteran is an 8-point bronze, but Freya's Blessing plays, it doesn't summon. So it doesn't really matter there. Yeah, I don't know, that's my opinion on, like, reses in Homecoming in general. I said pretty much the same thing when we were talking about Winch. But it definitely, like, it applies doubly to Freya's Blessing, because, like, that's what Freya was good for before. That's why Freya was an interesting card before. Now there's just, like, no upside. The only reason to play this is if you're trying, like, if you're playing an undercosted card, and you need to play that undercosted card more. Which seems so much more linear. On Crate Longship. Whenever an opponent plays a unit, damage it by 1. Doesn't that have reach too? I'm pretty sure this has reach. It has reach 2? Yeah, okay. Man. So of all of the 7 for 4 engines, I think this is the only one that doesn't immediately tick. Like, your opponent can either move this or kill this with a card, and you're not even getting 5 points out of your 7 provisions. Where at least with, like, Hawker Smuggler, you immediately got your extra point in your hand. With, like, the Northern Realms Trebuchet is even better than this. It ticks immediately and costs 1 less provision. Yeah, this is... You need to live 3 turns to break even, and it's a 4. And when it dies immediately, you're losing 3 provisions. This card is... blech. Trebuchet is not better, it's roll-locked. So is this. It's got reach 2. You can move this and just play on ranged. Push it on melee and it's useless. But if you already have, like, a unit on ranged, it's still gonna kill that unit. Trebuchet is definitely better than this. And that's not to say Trebuchet is good. It's just this card is not good. It doesn't even say that. It doesn't say that here. In game, it has reach 2. Stribig Runestone. Create and play a bronze Skellege card. Yeah. Cool. Heyme Flaminica. Every turn on turn end, heal all damaged allies on this row by 1. I really like this card. I was trying this just like in my Croc deck as a tech card for the mirror. If your opponent's trying to line up a Wolfsbane and you just row stack melee, or they're trying to line up a Wild Boar and you just row stack melee, you're eventually going to get to play Flaminica and get like 8 points worth of heal and just win the game in the mirror. I think this was like secretly a good tech card. Plus, if you're already playing light long ships, you have like that little engine combo to go with this. Because this ticks immediately, it's really cool. It almost always dies the turn after you play it. But it gets that value immediately. Unless he kills Flaminica. That's what I'm saying, even if they kill Flaminica. Because it's turn end. If you just have like 6 units on a row, play Flaminica, and they're all damaged, you get 10 points. And then they have to kill the Flaminica, or the game's over. And if it's late enough in the round and their hand is just Wolfsbane Wild Boar, they might not be able to kill the Flaminica. Drag Bondu. Boost all warrior allies by 1. I have never seen this card played. I don't even know how many warriors there are. Oh, these card things are warriors. Huh. Really depends how many warriors there are. The skirmisher warrior? This is a warrior. Huh. This is a warrior too. I mean, in the future, if there's like any kind of swarmy warriors, I could see this being good. It's only 6 provisions. As long as you have 3 warriors in play, you're getting break even. And ideally, you're going to have way more than that. Why play that when Froth exists? Because you don't have to have them all in the same row. You don't have to pay a bunch of provisions for it. It's cheap. Like, your question is why play a 6 provision card over a 13 provision card? Because you play Froth are also cheaper in SK? Sure. But again, row stacking and you might not have space for it. You also don't need to go that wide for Drake to be reasonable. If you have 4 warriors in play, you're getting 7 for 6. That's not too much of an ask. I'm not saying you go like super wide with Drag. But like, even if you just like Queensguard, if your Queensguard lives, if your Shield Maiden lives, Shield Maiden's 2. Queensguards, I don't even know how many. How many Queensguards do you usually get when Queensguard lives? 4 or 5? I think that's probably why I never saw it played. Yeah, maybe. I don't know, the floor on it's a lot lower. The risk is way lower on Drag than on Froth. Grimmist, deploy range, play a bronze alchemy card from your graveyard. When they changed Froth, I thought for sure they were just going to change Grimists. Maybe bump Froth to like 9 or 10 provisions. Maybe make it gold instead of bronze. They actually kept Grimist as is. Grimist, the former worst faction mage of Gwent. I think that belongs to Abaya, no? Pretty sure Grimmist is better than Abaya. Grimmist gave you Rain and Greatsword. Grimmist loaded up your graveyard for Freya or Restore. Non-last rated by yeah. What did he have? He had a Raucous Venom. This card is not okay. Like, it's kept in check now by all the control decks that just, like, don't let you go wide, or that punish you by going wide with, like, Wolfsbane or Shirus, or hitting you with a big Scorch. But it's really still not that hard to build a Skellege Froth deck once you don't have to worry about all your tokens dying, or worry about, like, a big Scorch getting lined up, or worry about losing all of your points to Wolfsbane. You had Blood Curdling Roar? Grimace did, I'm talking about Abaya. Yeah. Am I reviewing all factions stream? I reviewed half of it yesterday, Neutrals 2 days ago, and now I'm on the last faction now. This will all eventually be uploaded on my YouTube. It's gonna take a while because I need to trim the videos and upload them. But I think I have Neutrals and Monsters uploaded. I have Nilfgaard cut and ready to upload. I'll probably be posting like one a day. Mardro, damage a unit by 3, then boost by 9. I honestly thought this was a neutral card. Do I rerun my streams? No, I don't. Super informative is a good idea. Thanks. I think the chat interaction helps a lot too. Like, if I were just to do this for YouTube, it wouldn't be anywhere near as interesting. The way people are able to ask questions or comment on stuff makes it interesting for me as well, because I get to hear what you guys are talking about with each card. Post everything today because I don't think a lot of people will watch them tomorrow once the patch hits. It is literally impossible for me to upload them all to YouTube within the next 24 hours. They take like 2 hours to upload and like 3 hours to cut and render. Okay, so this is, I mean, it's Swallow Potion that can double as removal. The problem is, if you're playing Gremist, you probably want Swallow Potion over Mardrome. And Gremist is the only reason you'd ever play Swallow Potion. Or Mardrome. Because you can't Mardrome your Gremist to get the boost, right? So if you want max value, you have to have something else in play. Watch the VODs. Yeah, you can always watch the VODs. What does Swallow do? It's just a 6 version card that boosts by 6. Where this has to damage by 3 first. So, like, in a way, Mardro is more versatile, since if your opponent has a 3-point engine unit in play that you want to kill, you can use Mardro to kill it. Otherwise, you can use it to boost your unit by 6. Tried to run that boost all warriors by 1 card, but it never gets value. Oh, this, yeah. Yeah, maybe. I could see it. It does seem like if your Queen's Guards are living, you don't need a card like Dragbondu. But it's pretty aggressively costed. I don't know. It just feels like it can't be that bad. Especially when you see like how many warriors there are. Especially when Skirmisher's a warrior. Raging Bear. Damage an ally to the left by 1. There's no ally, damage self by 1 instead. It kills Bearmaster. That's all he does. It's his only job. It's an important job, but it's his only job. Just change stream title. Oh, yeah. Now that we're almost done with Skellege, let's change the stream title to Skellege. Blue Boy Synergy? Yeah. This and Mardro. Both have a little bit of synergy with Blue Boy. I guess you can also like turn on Queensguard with Raging Bear. I don't know. Like, you're really not playing this card. Unless you're playing Bearmaster, right? Even if you're getting some value out of the damage. It's a 6 for 6. I don't know, maybe. Queensguard. Order. If this unit takes damage, spawn a base copy of it and summon it to the right. So, wait. It's if this is damaged, you can use this order ability and spawn a copy. Yeah. This card's cool. I feel like every time I saw it played, it died. I don't know if anyone ever has had a Queensguard live in the history of Homecoming Gwent. But I'm sure if they have, it was pretty good. It's what, like 3 points every turn, as long as you can ping it? Could be worse. Shield Maiden, next time this unit takes damage, summon a copy of it from your deck to this row. It's worth noting this has to survive the damage. If your opponent just kills it with like a vest or something, you do not summon a copy. Queensguard shit because Rose too limited, also AoE meta. Yeah. And it dies. It's not very good for quite a few reasons. It's like trying to get blue stripes going without full test. Yeah, I could see that. Like, the condition on this is even harder. Is it? It requires a Croc Ping, but if you're using a Croc Ping on your Shield Maiden, it's sort of like you lose 2 points. So rather than comparing these with Riders, you have to compare them with the 3 for 6 ones. Which means this is just like a more situational, or at least a slightly more difficult version of Impera Enforcers to get out. Seven for 12 and thinning. As long as the point of damage isn't coming away from damage that you would have dealt to your opponent's unit, it's 7. Otherwise, it's 6. Wait. Yeah, because you're losing 2. And you're getting 8. This deck by 1 and nothing more. Yeah, that's why I'm comparing it to Impera Brigade. Because it's also a 3 for 6. Or 6 total. And no one really plays that. Granted, part of that's because Nilfgaard Bronzes are so good, and you don't really need that. Maybe if Impera Brigade was in other factions, you'd play it. Thinning 1 card for SK is nothing. I don't know if that's the case. So if you're Croc, and you're playing Witcher's Roach, Burna, Scald. So you thin 2 with Witchers, 1 with Roach. 2 with Burna, 2 with Scald. That thins you to 2. Yes, you're correct. Running 1 card, thinning 1 card means nothing for SK. You'll have plenty of mulligans to find your whole deck. Wild Hunt Rider is just better than Impera Brigade. The condition on a Wild Hunt Riders is a little bit sketchy, but yeah. I don't know if I'd say just better. But yeah, it's probably better. Whenever an enemy on the opposite row takes damage, we self by 1. Yeah, it's the Greatsword deck. People tried to play this early. They end up dying. They end up getting locked. And you end up having to play too many bad cards to make them good. It's not like the old Axeman deck, where you played good cards and then played Axeman that benefited from those good cards, like Goldweather, Pirate Captain, Boats, all that stuff. Here, you're playing greatswords, and the cards that you use to get value out of them are like Torrential Rain, Delirium, a 4 for 5. So when your greatswords don't live, your deck is embarrassing. It's not like the old Axeman deck, where if the Axeman didn't live, you were still doing all of this other powerful stuff. In Homecoming, really the only thing good that you're doing involves greatswords. And that's kind of the issue. Bearmaster. Boost a beast ally by 2. Increase this boost by 1 for every beast in your graveyard. You have to play so many bad cards to make this good. So many bad cards. And because you have so many bad cards in your deck, it's almost impossible to win round 1. Which means you're not going to have last say, which means your opponent has round control. So your opponent gets to decide whether they want to bleed you in round 2 because you don't have a big enough graveyard, or if they want to just play a long round 3 where you don't have like enough big plays. Like you only have the 4 Bearmasters, and maybe they have like a Scorch, or maybe they have like a Professional or something. People like to say that like if Lemons wasn't a card, this Bearmaster deck would be really good, but that's just not true. This Bearmaster deck just sucks. Lemons doesn't really have much of an impact on. Like, obviously, the deck auto loses to Lemons. If your opponent plays Lemons, you just concede. But you also just lose to a lot of other stuff that has nothing to do with Lemons, or has nothing to do with doing Graveyard Hate. The deck just isn't that high power. At least if you know how to play against it, and you know what your role in the matchup is. Am I implying that Raging Bear is bad? Yes. Yes, I am. Gutting Slash. Damage a unit by 4. Bloodthirst 2. Damage a unit by 6 instead. Okay. So if 6 is a particularly relevant number, and you don't mind that you can't deal 6 until like 3 or 4 cards into the round, I can imagine a world in which you might want to play Gutting Slash. The problem is that the only things that you need to deal 6 damage to are like Avalok, and you won't be able to deal 6 to it on turn 1 of the round, and that's when you need to be able to kill Avalok. Gutting Slash is alright discard. Yeah. If you want to play Gutting Slash over like a Dimeridium Shackles or a Mahaka Mail, I could see that. Even then, though, I think I'd rather just like play a 4. Just like play another Clear Skies or the Dimeridium Bomb, and just improve my deck somewhere else. Like by the end, when we were playing Miracle Brand, we trimmed down the specials pretty far. I think we were only playing like 5 or 6 special cards in total. And we fit in just like powerful cards that we wanted to lippy back. So we would replay like Unicorn Kirinix. We had Savage Bears in the deck, so we had another 4 that we didn't mind just playing. And that felt like the better way to play Miracle Brand than trying to go all in on the like getting value on your Coral discards, instead of just using Coral to cycle through your deck guaranteed to maximize lippy value. So I don't know if I'd really want to play Gutting Slash, but yeah, if you think you're in the market for like D-Shackles, I could see maybe playing Slash over it. Trophy Catch. Move an enemy to the other row. Oh, wait, someone said Thunder is always better. Thunder is both 1 more provision and potentially 1 less damage. Thunder is definitely not always better. Also, 4 is a bigger number to hit than 5 is. I think in general, this card is much better than Alzur's Thunder. Like, what do you really need to deal 5 to? Granted, if there becomes a bunch of stuff that you have to deal 5 to, obviously you might want to play Alzur's Thunder instead. It really depends just what numbers you care about hitting. Trophy catch. Move an enemy to the other row, damage it by the number of units on that row. Poor Whaler. What happened to you? You're a special card now. You don't have any points. The whole thing that made Whaler so good was that the floor on it wasn't that bad, right? Worst case, you played like a 9-point Whaler. And while it was below average, the times when it was good made up for it. Here, you're gonna play a lot of like 2 and 3 point trophy catches. Magna Division. Yeah, I guess. Isn't Diamond Iridium Shackles just better though? Like, I'm probably dealing more damage with Diamond Iridium Shackles than I am with Trophy Catch. Will she have a 2-point body? Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I could see that. I'm all for making bronzes better. It does feel like monsters in Nilfgaard have really good bronzes, and nobody else has, like, great bronzes. Scoia'tael's got a lot of, like, situational, oppressive bronzes, but in terms of, like, raw value, they're not exciting. Where Monsters has, like, Forktail, Archispore, Ancient Foglet, Thrive units. Nilfgaard has, like, the entire reveal package. Magna Division. Nausicaa Sergeant. And everyone else is just, like, kind of left out. I like good bronzes. I think good bronzes make the game more interesting. I think it's one of the most important things. NR bronzes, yeah. NR has a couple good bronzes. NR's got the blue stripe stuff. They have a... I mean, I guess Damned Sorceress isn't bad. NR has good bronzes, they don't get removed. Kind of. We talked about this more in NR. I don't really want to repeat myself, but... You're like half right. Tershek Veteran. Deploy, damage self by 4. So I played this in my Bran Froth deck, in addition to Hjalmar. Basically, I just played this as a discard target so that I had a bigger Hjalmar. I basically treated Hjalmar as a 10 provision card and played this over a 4. It was fine. Not exciting. Aside from that, I don't know, I guess you're trying to do some like weird Joanna stuff. You can play Tershek Veteran. You're never gonna really want to Becker's this. Restore target. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could restore it. You can go like Veteran, Yoda, Restore. That gets you what? 8, 6, 14 points? Could be worse. A lot of setup though. Demon Pirate. Move the top card of your deck to your graveyard. It's a 5/5 that's like trying to maybe RNG set something up. Not really sure. Not really sure. Skellege also thins to 0 pretty commonly, so there is kind of some downside to milling one. Yeah, I don't know what this is really for. It feels kind of weird. Dimon Light Longship. Why is Iced always so shit? Why does CDPR hate him? How can you complain about Iced when there's Ada? The pirate with Surveil. That'd be kind of cool. For those of you that don't know, Surveil is a mechanic in Magic, which you look at the top card of your deck and either leave it on top or put it in your graveyard. Yeah, this would be way cooler if it was Surveil. Demon Light Longship. Order, damage self by 1 and an enemy by 1. Cooldown 1. You can use this. People play it in the Croc deck. It lines up Wolfsbane. Sets up Wild Boar. It's certainly not the most exciting card. You kind of just play it because you need some kind of extra way to line your stuff up. But, it's fine. People trim it to 1 or 0 sometimes. But it fills a role. You can use it with Joanna or Flaminica too. Heme Skull. Discard a card, then draw a card. This is pretty easily Skellige's best bronze. Right? Not going crazy. There's nothing better. I guess maybe Skirmisher. But again, for the same reason that Burn is good, being able to upgrade one of your less good cards into a random card from your deck is generally going to be worth more, significantly more, than this 1 provision cost that you're paying. Like, if you're discarding, like, even if you just discard, like, a Skirmisher, like, the best case, you discard a Skirmisher, you're sort of getting 6 points, but you're also upgrading your 4 provision card into something that's on average, like, 6.6 provisions. So you can see that as turning your 4 into, like, +2, and then also getting 2 points. So you can sort of look at this as like an 8 for 5 when you're discarding Skirmisher, and like a 6 for 5 when you're discarding a random 4. And even more if like your average 4 is, or your average card is worth more than 6.6. Because you're going to be discarding like a Savage Bear, you're going to be discarding a Skirmisher or a Morkvarg or something that you don't really want to play. Because you play just enough of those cards that you don't want to play for your Skald and your Burna. Drummond Warmonger. I think you only played this card if you wanted to destroy attack advantage, because for some reason this card was bugged and could destroy attack advantage since BTR. Not really sure how that's still in the game. I don't envy the people that have to maintain their code base. Demon Smuggler. Deploy melee. Damage unit by 1, boost him unit by 2. I didn't know this card existed. You're basically getting 5 for 5, but you're damaging a unit. So if you're getting value out of damaging something, so like the Blue Boy Lugos, or you have like a Shield Maiden in play, this lets you damage a unit for effectively free. Except it's just a 5 for 5. Use 1 Premier. I mean, I'd play Frenzied Dow before I played Warmonger. If I just wanted artifact removal. But if you want to have removal for both of the spears, yeah, you can play Warmonger plus Frenzied Dow. But a lot of the part that makes the Warmonger good is that you can pop attack advantage in matchups where Warmonger would otherwise be dead. Best card per faction. We can do that as soon as we wrap this up. I've kind of alluded to most of it already. On Crate Warcry, boost self by the amount an enemy is damaged. Yeah, okay. I don't know what do I even say, but it has to be damaged by like 3 to get 6. No, just no. That feels like so much work. I guess if your opponent has a Frenzy Dow. Best card per faction per provision cost? Nah, that's way too much. That's way too much. And you like ping the Frenzy Dow down to 1, you get a 9 for 5. That's so much work. Heim shenanigans. But if you're playing Heim, you kind of want to Heim your own Olaf. That's, yeah, like again, we're just talking like so much work. The Skellege doesn't even play a unit that's bigger than 5. So you damage like their Aileron down to 1. You play Warcrier, get 7 for 5. Blech. On Crate Warrior, deploy damage enemy by 2. If played from the graveyard, damage it by 4 instead. Wasn't it 8 for 5? By the amount an enemy is damaged. So if a 5 power unit is damaged by 4, you get +4. So it goes to 7. On Crate Warcry has reach 1. Oh, so it's just unplayable? Oh, it's not even cute anymore. Okay, never mind. On Crate Warrior, damage an enemy by 2. If played from the graveyard, damage it by 4 instead. This thing also has reach 1, right? I remember trying to play this in PTR and being really upset with it having reach 1. Oh, wait. You're talking about Warrior. I'm talking about Warcryer. Wait, does this also have reach 1? I've noticed that this isn't actually showing me reach. Don't think. Okay, yeah. I don't remember why I wanted to play Warrior. So, baseline, if you have to play it, it's a 5 for 5, though ideally you're kind of discarding it. But you're discarding this, which means you're not discarding a 4. So you're losing like some weird amount of value there. And then you have to res it just to get 7 points on Freya. Oh, and reach 1, by the way. Rockvar Archer. Deploy ranged, damage an enemy by the amount of damaged units on their side. But if we have Bloodthirst 2, which would make this break even. Actually, if we have Bloodthirst 3, which would make this equivalent to like a Panther or a the Scoia'tael Bowman. We could play this and just kill it. I mean, sure, we have like a 3-point body too, but it's a lot of work. These Skellege cards don't really reward you for your labor. On Crate Armorsmith, deploy, boost an ally by 1. If it's a warrior, boost it by 3. It's a 6 for 5. It's a 6 for 5. So the thing about Skellege is you don't really have to play these middling cards. You can just play some like slightly worse 4s and just intend to discard them with Burnabrand or Scald. And just play more high provision stuff. Really, these 5s, while they're not very good, they don't really matter either, because you don't have to play them. Like, the 1 provision that you're giving up by playing a 5 over a 4 is so much bigger for Skellege than other factions, because of the discard cards. Demon Corsair, damage a unit by 1 for every ship in your hand. Okay. So what, you can play 2 of these, 1 Wild Boar, and if you have all of them in your hand, you can play Demon Corsair. Like, technically you can play Warship, or you can play Longship, but I wouldn't want to. Hey Magus, what's up? Hackberry enabled? I don't know, is it? I haven't refreshed chat in a while, so I can't see. Nope, pending review. Just want to be Hackberry. SK every 4 to 5. Yeah. Well, it's one of the benefits of SK, right? You don't have to play your cheap cards because you have Burna, because you have Scald. You're allowed to get away with a lot. Demon Warship. Hey, it's a 4 for 5. Like, sure, you can do it with greatswords, but again, this is the same issue, right? Like, when your greatswords don't live, you're playing a bunch of trash to support them. This is one of those trash cards using to support greatswords. An electric circuit in your graphics card burned through. Oh no. Rockvar Hunter. I kind of like this card because you know going in what matchups you're going to want to play Rockvar Hunter. And when you build most brand decks, you end up having to play like 2 or 3 of your 4s in a game. Now, normally, it'll be like you'll play a Marauder, you'll play a Savage Bear, and you'll like find a window to play like a Pirate Captain or something when it doesn't matter as much. But in some matchups, you can just like jam Rockvar Hunter because you know your opponent can't kill it because they're like tall monsters. And then you can use your Rockvar pings to ping off like their Thrive units or something. While most of the time, you're just not going to play this card, because you're Skellege, you can afford to throw this in your deck and either mulligan or discard it. Especially if you're Bran. And really, you're not playing this outside of Bran. Pirate Captain, Bloodthirst 2, damage made by 3. This is a 6 for 4, as long as you can meet this kind of difficult condition. But really, if you're Croc, this condition's kind of free. As long as the game is going reasonably well for you, Pirate Captain should be live. I'm going to play Hunter over Captain. In Bran. Because you don't have as much... as many ways to enable Bloodthirst in Bran, because the discard is... the damage is random off your leader. Pirate Captain's going to be dead a lot in Bran. Where Rockvar Hunter gives you better distribution against Thrive units, too. You tried Artifact yesterday, you don't see how anyone believes RNG can be mostly controlled in that game. That's kind of how I felt watching some games. Maybe Limited is better than Constructed, I just don't have any interest in Limited formats. On console is Frenzy down, auto-include. Not quite auto-include, but if your deck isn't like really tight synergy-based, then yes. Just the first turn can be incredibly one-sided already. Yeah. Boost an ally by 1, charge 1, gain a charge whenever you play a warrior. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's another engine. It's not... It's a 4. It can only be so bad when it's a 4. It's sort of like, what's it called? Nausicaa Sergeant. Or... the Nilfgaard card. It gets +1 every time you play a deploy. And that card's pretty good, so this card can't be that bad. It's just that there's more deploys than there are warriors. If you're able to build a deck that was like all warriors... I don't even think Skald is a warrior. Yeah. Then this card would be a lot better. There's just not enough warriors. Whenever an adjacent unit takes damage, boost self by 1. You can use this with boats, with Joanna, and try to assemble like some really wacky engines. I played against one guy who won round 1 going Longship, Protector, Longship, Protector, Joanna as their first 5 cards, and I just had to pass. They were getting so many points. And I was playing, I think, Consume. I just didn't have removal to deal with it. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to stick all of that, and it's not going to be relevant. But it's worth mentioning, like, if the minigame shifts towards, like, really low interaction, for whatever reason, that is, like, an engine you can do in Skellege. It's more like you either have 1 artifact removal or none, and if you have 1 removal, you better know your matchups and when to play it just for its body instead. Yeah. Sure. It's also just the best artifact removal card in the game. And it's not even bad in matchups where they don't have artifacts. Even when you know they don't have artifacts, you still don't want to mulligan it, just because it's still a 7-point card. Enemy Spear Maiden. Damage enemy by 3, damage self by 2. So... Wait, this is literally Damn Sorceress. That's kind of funny. I didn't realize that. It's like a Damn Sorceress with upside. A, it's a warrior, and you have some synergy with warriors. Reach 1. Does it have Reach 1? I thought it was Reach 2. Is there no way to see Reach? I don't want to leave the page. It is Reach 1? Okay, never mind. That must be why I didn't think of that before. Savage Bear. Zeal. Deploy. Gain a charge for each Savage Bear in the graveyard. Damage a unit by 2. So because of the way Skellege works, Savage Bear is much better in Skellege than it would be in any other faction. Because you don't have to play the first half of Savage Bear, you can discard it to Burn a Brand or Scald. It's really just like you have one discard target, and then you have another 6/4 in your deck. So you've got Pirate Captains, which are a 6/4. You've got Savage Bear, which is a 6/4. And you have Skirmisher as another discard target. So you can discard, like, 2 Skirmishers and a Savage Bear, or, like, 2 Skirmishers, a Morkvarg, play a Savage Bear for 4, and play another Savage Bear. Depending on how your list is configured and how you draw. Yeah, Savage Bear is nice. It's removal, too. Certainly the best card in the Bearmaster deck. Sources of the juicy Spectre synergy. Oh yeah. All that wonderful Spectre synergy. Terjak Axeman. Deploy melee, destroy an enemy with half then or less than its base power. So what? If your opponent has a 4 that you damage to 2, you get 4/4. If your opponent has a 5 that you damage to 2, you get 4/4. If your opponent has a Spear Tip and you can deal 7 to it, then you get 8/4. No. Yitta counter? Yeah, I guess it's a Yitta counter if you're really worried about Yitta. I don't know why you would be, but yeah, that's fair. Again, it's not that I can't imagine a world where this is good. It's just a really weird world where this card is good. It should be an easy 3. Yeah, this were 3 power. That'd be a lot more interesting. It still probably wouldn't be great. But it might be worth considering in some decks. Like, as it is now, the numbers don't really make sense. Skirmisher. This card's great. You're getting value while discarding a 4. This card's so good. This is, like, honestly a contender for one of the best bronzes of the game. Because you're doing something that you want to be doing anyway. You want to be upgrading your 4s into good cards by discarding them. But then you get additional value for doing it. Skirmisher's so good. Better than Mango? Well, I don't know. Because it's so different, right? It's like a 6/4. I think it's better than a 6/4. Like, because you don't actually play it. Like, where normally you're Scald, if you just discard, like a Savage Bear, right? If you assume the average card in your deck is worth 7 and you're discarding a 4-point Savage Bear, you're getting 7 for 5. Where when you discard Skirmisher, instead of getting 7, you're getting 9. Yeah, like I think Skirmisher is a better card than Morkvarg. Aside from the fact that you can just play Morkvarg in some matchups and have it be a unit that doesn't die. Simply because it's cheap. Where you don't really want to be discarding your 8s, you do want to be discarding your 4s. I'm saying it's precisely a 2-point roach at 4. Yeah, basically. That's a pretty good way of phrasing it, I think. I mean, it's a little more situational than Roach, because it forces you to have a discard, but you also never have to waste a mulligan on it, so it's better than Roach in that respect. Calculate the value. Yeah, I mean, the value is just like 2 plus whatever Scald's value is. So it's really more about Scald than Skirmisher in that aspect. 2-point Dandelion. Well, you need it in your hand to 2 on like Roach. Yeah, like I'm saying, they're kind of different. Skirmisher, you never have to mulligan. Roach, you always have to mulligan. Skirmisher, you need a more specific card to pair with it than you need with Roach. Man, Skirmisher's so good. And Marauder. We did a flowchart yesterday. Do I still have that flowchart? I do. Let's bring that up. Yeah, so Marauder. This is titled the Marauder flowchart. I had to title it over here. So it's basically if you have first play, then you check if you have Spear in your hand. If you do have Spear in your hand, then you don't mulligan Marauder. If you don't have Spear in your hand, then your opponent's going to have to play the first unit. Or then you're going to have to play the first unit, so you mulligan Marauder. However, if you don't have first play, then you keep Marauder, because your opponent's going to play the first unit. It's a really detailed flowchart. But that's how you play on Crate Marauder. I forgot to account for them playing an artifact first. Ah, no, I didn't. They never do. Artifacts aren't cards. Okay, and someone asked, like, what's the best card in each faction? I mean, this is kind of loose. I don't know if I can confidently say for sure, like, what the best cards in each faction are. I think for Skellege, I gotta give it to Burna. I said this when I was reviewing Burna. Burna feels like the best Skellege card. Like, what even competes with it? Boar? No, Burna's way better than Boar. Burna, maybe Mork. I think Skirmisher is better than Mork. But it's kind of weird. It's gotta be Burna. Yeah, and then Scoia'tael. What did you say for Scoia? I don't know if I said anything for Scoia. I might have said Milva. I don't know if that's right. I mean, the answer is probably just, like, Shiru. To be fair, it's really hard. Yeah, exactly. They're kind of the same card. It's all one package. Lippy. It's definitely not Lippy. Don't be fooled, chat. It's not Lippy. I kind of want to say Milva. Man, it's so hard. Like, Shiru's kind of nuts, too. All ST cards are shit? No, there's a couple good ones. Particularly the ones that I just singled out. Eithne? Ah, that doesn't count. Come on, Eithne's not a card. Eithne's a 3D model. Noble's better. Yeah, like, it's definitely one of the two, right? I don't think there's really a close contender at number 3. What does Gnome do? I don't know what Gnome is. I point out the best 3D model? No. Do I really have? Doesn't everyone know what the best leaders are by now? Like, it's Croc, it's Eithne, it's Foltest, it's Morgran, it's one of these two, probably Woodland. NR, easiest, Draug, not even close. Don't think we really need to talk about that anymore. There's nothing even close, right? Draug is... If we were rating cards on like a scale of 1 to 10, I think Draug is the only... Not only the only 10 NR has, I don't even think NR has a 9. I hate this one best leader. It really sucks for some reason, but it's fine in other card games. It's just bad balance right now. I'm sure it'll get better over time. Sabrina. Sabrina's only good because of Draug, though. Anna's good, that's true. Though I think Anna's like a... I guess Anna might be like a 9. I don't know. An 8 might not be fair, but it's not on Draug level. Visegoda? I don't know that much Protector Visegoda. Nilfgaard. Nilfgaard's kind of fun, actually. It's funny, going into Homecoming, I think I would have said, like... I think I would have actually said Daler and Soldier. It's because the math on this card is ridiculous. But now, like, this isn't even in, like, my top 20. After playing with the cards. We had a lot of metas where 3 to 4 factions, effectively only one playable leader, with multiple decks. Yeah, it wasn't so bad before Homecoming, though. Like what? So in Northern Realms, you could only play Foltest because Northern Realms cards were kind of bad. You could play in Nilfgaard. There were Emir decks. There were Calvé decks. You had like tier 2 Morvran decks that were reasonable. On your server was junk. Then in Scoia'tael, you had Bruver and Eithne, both being reasonably playable. In Monsters, you had Arrakis Queen. You had Dagon. I'd say Dagon was playable. What's the other faction? Oh, Skellege. I guess Skellege only had Croc. Boat's brand was like barely a deck. For Homecoming, we had 5 patches of tuning. Yeah, and then just kind of threw all that out, and now we got to rebalance again from scratch. And while I have said multiple times on stream, like, I don't value balance among cards very highly, I would like to see, like, leaders somewhat balanced, right? It just leads to more variety when the leaders are all at least equally considerable. I never said what card for Nilfgaard. It might honestly just be like a bronze. It might be Magna Division. Swears. I mean, Swears is good. Swears is definitely good. But Magna Division's... Magna Division's Magna Division. Arbalest is frustrating. I don't know if I'd say Arbalest is the best. I mean, I'm pretty sure the answer is a bronze. I could see an argument for Arbalest. I think I'd have to go Magna Division. Magna's auto-include, like, burn it. Well, so is Arbalest. Like, you're playing Reveal Package in every reasonable Nilfgaard deck. Yeah, the fact that Magna's only 4 provisions, and it's a card that you never really want to mulligan, it's always good. It's like on the same tier as Archaspore. Slave Infantry? I don't think Slave Infantry is even really a consideration. It's good, but it's not that crazy. If Nilfgaard had more ones that got good value, then maybe. But a lot of the time you're relying on your opponent to damage something, or you're transforming like a 3. Magna makes you row stack? Yeah, so what? That doesn't matter very often. Monsters. I don't even care about these golds. None of them matter. My heart tells me Archaspore. My brain tells me Forktail. There's no way it's not one of those 2 cards, right? I don't think anything else is even close. Why do I have neutral cards here? Drowner's pretty good. Drowner's not even on the same level as Archaspore. Not to say Drowner's not good. Like, Drowner's definitely a good card. But if we're trying to single out one card, it's the best card in Monsters, like I was asked to try to do. I think I have to go Forktail. There's no other bronze that you build around to the same extent. Well, it's definitely not Gels. Ruhin's not in a good spot right now. And again, every deck that plays Ruhin is also going to be playing Forktail and Archaspore. Every deck that plays Gels is also going to be playing Forktail and Archaspore. Rogue is easily top 1. I don't think it's as easy as a lot of people are making it out to be. But I agree the top 2 are easy. Where's Magus to yell at me for even considering Archaspore? That seems like something he would do. Even Arrakis will play Fork. Well, Forktail's at its best in Arrakis Queen. I don't think I've ever played 20-point Forktails outside of Arrakis Queen. In Witcher meta, it's Fork. Yeah, like a big part of what makes Forktail so good is that almost every deck is playing Witchers and Roach. Does Big Boy Monster also play Forktail Archosaur? Yes. Every competitive Monsters deck plays Forktail Archosaur. Spore is decent. Spore is decent? I will not stand for you calling Archosaur decent. This card's floor is a 5/4. Do you know how many 10-point Archosaurs there are? Decent? Yeah, Necker is decent. Necker Warrior is decent. Yeah, NR is decent. Never change Twitch chat. Value for cost, it's gotta be Alpha Werewolf. Value for cost, that's competing directly with Forktail. It does not beat Forktail on that ratio at all. It certainly doesn't beat Archosaur. What about Gales? Gales isn't even top 20. There's not a single good Monsters deck that plays Gales. Anyway, I guess that completes the card review. Oh, best neutral card, right, we didn't actually do that. There's no way, it's not Sihil. It's probably just Silver Witchers. I think I'd go like... Man, this one's actually way trickier. It's like Witcher Trio, Roach, Frenzy Dow. Not necessarily in that order. And then I guess it's like Sihil. The series following shortly after. That was 100% in the top 5. I feel pretty comfortable placing it top 3 as well. Sihil's a worse spear, yeah, okay. Poet? Okay, you guys are just fucking with me now. Mono love for the unicorns. They're really not that good. They're just the best filler that you can play in this provision slot. Rich's Rich Siri. I can respect that. I'd put Dow above Siri though. Artifact strength isn't lining up. It depends on what artifact deck you are. Sometimes artifact strength is just winning the game with Sihil. I think I lost more games to Sihil over the course of the season than I did to the artifact decks that just lined things up. But yeah, anyway, looks like we extended this just long enough to hit 6 hours. Here's what I try to aim my streams to be. Yeah, I will slowly be pushing these up to YouTube. I have Nilfgaard cut and ready to upload. And then I gotta do tonight's and NR's half from last night. I'm gonna run some ads, find someone to host. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. I think the patch will be live by the time I go live. I think the patch goes live like halfway through my stream. I'm not actually sure. I guess we'll find out then. If there's no Gwent when I normally go live, I guess we'll play like Slay the Spire for a few hours while we wait for Gwent. Or I'll just like start the stream late. I'll figure it out as we go. Going to invest in better thumbnails and video titles? Yeah, I probably do. I'm really just using my YouTube as like an archive more than like a marketing platform. Yep, I will see you guys tomorrow. Oh no, Bob Ross is offline. This is technically a card game.